And we're live. Hi, guys. This is Stephan Livera podcast. Today, this is episode 57. And so the podcast is focused on Bitcoin's economics and technology. So today we're trying something a little different, and we're trying to put some of this material on YouTube rather than as an audio-only podcast, which is the typical way I've done these in the past. So just to quickly introduce my guest today, he is Alex Adelman. He is the CEO and founder of Lolli, which is a Bitcoin company that enables you to essentially earn back Bitcoin whenever you shop online. So I've been impressed about the way Alex has been doing some things with his company, and I wanted to get him on and just have a discussion about things like the psychology of newbies to Bitcoin and how can newbies be interested to join and be enticed to come along and earn Bitcoin. So first of all, thanks for coming on the show, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so look, let's get it started with discussion around the psychology of Bitcoin for newbies. In your view, how does like a newbie think about Bitcoin?
Yeah, so it's first of all, it's way different than on like crypto or Bitcoin Twitter. I think a lot of times we, having been in the space and constantly learning and compounding this knowledge that we've gained over the years, we forget what it's like to first learn about Bitcoin. And so when we were creating Lolli in the early days, about a year ago, we had to think like really hard about like who is the customer, who is the consumer that has never heard about Bitcoin or just heard about Bitcoin and is literally Googling for the first time, how do I get Bitcoin? Like, what is Bitcoin? And when you start to bombard somebody with keys and block size and all the different coins out there, it's overwhelming. And so I got into Bitcoin about 5 years ago and was just fascinated with everything, but really like the technology. It was one of the most transformative technologies I've ever seen. And I've been building since I was 12. Like it's sort of like the most incredible thing I've ever seen. And we're so lucky that it's a part of like our generation and our life right now. And I would just sort of like a magnet, just sort of like drawn to this thing. And so when my mom started texting me, my sister, my friends from back home in North Carolina started texting me, how do I get it? What do I do? I didn't have a solution for them. I didn't want to tell them to go invest in it because that's risky. I don't give financial advice for stocks. I don't give financial advice for anything. So why would I give someone financial advice for Bitcoin? I didn't feel comfortable with that. And so after my team and I were really talking about how do we solve this issue. There's so many smart people out there solving the infrastructure issues, but who is going to solve the distribution issue? Who's going to solve the education issue? And we've done a great job as a community to bring Bitcoin to probably around 15 to 20 million people. How do you bring it to the next 100 million, the next billion people? And you can't just give them an address and expect them to go learn it. You have to give them Bitcoin. You have to teach them. And so, yeah, that's how we came up with Lolli. We made it really, really simple. We took something that a billion people do in the world, shop online, and made it incredibly easy for people to earn Bitcoin when they do something they're already doing.
Fantastic. I love the fact that you're really looking at this in terms of big numbers, right? So look, Bitcoin today is 10 years old. We're about 10 million, or whatever it is, 15, 20 million, whoever. But really, to get the next number, it's going to have to be something different and even better as an approach. One thing that we can consider is what drew us into Bitcoin, and do you think could that be the same thing that would draw in more like the next wave, or do you actually think it needs to be something different?
It's a great question, and we think about that a lot. Is like, what is the value that Bitcoin had to the early adopters, and what is the value that it has to the next phase of adopters? When we started, concepting for Lolli, You know, I went back home to North Carolina. I went to Omaha, Nebraska. I went to Minneapolis, to Chicago, to, you know, all over the country. And I talked to the people that, you know, we've been talking to, you know, since I built my last company. And we asked them, like, you know, what do you know? Like, what is it? How does Bitcoin make you feel? And the answers we got were just, I mean, it was the same thing. It was like, it's risky. I'm not sure what, like, why. And so, you know, we really had to say, like people were like, what can I do with it? And then we sort of reversed the questions and said, like, well, you know, what is money? Like, what is money to you? And one of my biggest takeaways in talking to, you know, potential first, like, early users, was that people didn't know what money is. And once you start the value of money, start to see where money breaks down, then you start to see how money serves you, and there's lots of types of money in the world, right? Like, there's hundreds of currencies, there's tons of stores of value, depending on how you look at it. You have to convince somebody that there's a better store of value than the US dollar, than the, you know, Japanese yen. Like, how do you convince somebody to do that? And I think you have to just get them involved. You have to teach them about sound money. You have to teach somebody, like, why it's important. And we're lucky. Like, why I think this is the time, and it, you know, it wasn't 20 years ago. It wasn't. It's not 20 years from now. Like, we are frustrated. We're frustrated with our governments. We're frustrated with our banks. We're frustrated with, you know, the military. We're frustrated with all these things around us. And we've never been in a world that has had so much information just thrown at us. Like, we literally can look up anything in the world and we're just overwhelmed by it. And we're stressed. Like, and so when you finally start to realize, like, what the value of money is in the world, and who controls it, you start to realize you have very little control of the money that you thought previously was your money. So you start to ask questions, and then you start to see, well, if there's no good answers, if there's no alternative to the US dollar, then what is there? And Bitcoin came about, and then it was just like, okay, well, here's the answer, and it's in, you know, code, and it's just out there. It just is. It's just this beautiful thing that we can all use. And we've never been, like, you know, in addition to information, we've also never been so connected. So the internet brought information, the internet brought communication, and then we're on these, like, old rails that have been around for decades. And, you know, and then we're like, wait a second, we can't actually transfer money. We can't actually transfer value, and yet we're all hyper connected. And so there's just like the perfect time where there's this tension, and then there's an answer with Bitcoin. And that's why I'm really excited about it.
Fantastic. Yeah. And now let me throw another slightly different way of thinking about it at you. So obviously, I agree with many of the things you have said. Now, many people are not going to go to the level of understanding, the economics and why do I hold money and so on, right? Because obviously there's a certain sound money camp, Bitcoin Austrian group who are into that, and we love that. But maybe the average person out there may not be so interested in that. However, there may be another reason why they might be interested from a psychology point of view. And one of my friends, Vijay Boyapati, prior guest of the podcast, also mentions this idea of being mentally captured by Bitcoin, right? And I think that's something that you as a company may help trigger that in people by helping them own a small amount of Bitcoin. And then potentially, if they see another bull run happen, that's at that point, they may now come in from more of a speculation point of view. Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, so for better or worse, people are attracted to the price of Bitcoin, and it totally is. Like, you know, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, you know, something that our users think about. Like, they want to get into Bitcoin because they've seen other people make money from it, and it's the way that I like to think about it is it's a touch point. It's like, how many touch points does the US dollar have? Like, you use it every single day. You think about it all, you know, you think about it with transferring, but you don't actually think what's behind it. But when you can take a daily action, like buying coffee, getting groceries, you know, booking a trip, getting a hotel, whatever these, like, daily touch points are, and you can provide someone with a reminder that Bitcoin exists and that it's like what it is, and you can educate people with that. And then you can say, okay, well, here's the price, and it's going up and down. It's a feature, not a bug of like over the US dollar. We all know what like $1 is $1 for, through the US dollar. And similarly, like, Bitcoin, with just the perspective that our users have, they're looking at Bitcoin and they're seeing it go up and down, and they're getting excited by it. It's sort of this dopamine rush. And so, we have to lean into that, and we have to, get people excited about Bitcoin by the price. Like, I think that we look at the price as like an extra touch point for the user to engage with Lolli, to engage with Bitcoin, and it'll get them excited. And clearly, the more people that get involved with it, that learn about it, I think that sort of has a compounding effect.
Fantastic. And so now let's talk about that distinction then between earning Bitcoin versus buying Bitcoin.
Yeah. So when I first got into, when I first learned about Bitcoin, all I knew is that you could mine it. It was like, that's all I was like, I remember Googling it, like, how do I get it? And I was, building a company at the time. I was like super fucking busy. Okay.
Yep.
So I was like super busy, but I just was like fascinated with it. So with my last company, we were, building the democratization of commerce. We were trying to create a technology that connected the entire world through commerce, gave everybody the ability to buy and sell anywhere. And then I learned about Bitcoin, and it was like, wait a second, that is native in a currency and a store of value. And this currency connects the entire world from like day one. But how do you use it? And so I did not buy, a mining rig. I was not one of those like, super early adopters. I didn't, set up a node, and, I wish I did. And then Coinbase came out and gave me a easy on-ramp to like, go buy a Bitcoin. And like, it was really exciting. I was like, okay, now I can pay attention to it with the price. I was checking it, 5 times a day. And I was like fascinated with like what it could do. And I was sending money to friends, and it just got really exciting. Then I learned about private keys, and then I just went deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole about like what it was. But all I needed was a little bit. It was, like, I didn't, invest my life savings in it. It's not about that. Most people shouldn't do that. I don't think anyone should do that. It's going to take this slow transition. And so to answer your question, I think that the first phase was mining. The next phase was investing. And if you look at investing just, as a group of people that invest, it's a very small population. It's a very small population that has the money to invest and that should ever invest. You have to have like, a knowledge about, what you're investing in. And it's a risky game to invest in anything like that, that is volatile, and especially as volatile as Bitcoin is. And so the next phase, I think, is about earning. It's trading your time, your money for something that you can then earn in the future. So I think it's a very like low friction, low threshold, low risk way of taking something that you're already doing and earning. So I think that like we're going to take this group of people that is, that shops online, gives them a little a way to earn, and have this sort of like faucet into into Bitcoin. And then the next phase is like, okay, let's give them the ability to buy more Bitcoin. And every time you go buy $100 worth of groceries, and you go get actually probably 20,000 Satoshis, then you're constantly like shifting from fiat to Bitcoin slowly but surely.
Yeah, that's a fascinating way to put it. And what's funny is these amounts may seem very small in Satoshis, right? So as we know, 1 Bitcoin is made up of 100 million Satoshis, right? And people have done the numbers. I can't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like if you split 21 million Bitcoin divided by the world population, the answer is something like 280,000 Satoshis, which today is like tiny. It's like, I think it's like, I don't know, $15 or something. It's tiny, maybe not even that. So it kind of gives you that perspective, because people, when they're shopping with Lolli, they're going to get back a percentage in Bitcoin, in Satoshis, And that may seem small today, but in 5, 10, 15 years time, that actually may be a reasonable amount of money.
Entirely. And I think that, you know, it's important to understand the psychology of people outside of Bitcoin. Like there's a lot of, okay, so my last company was acquired by Ebates, and Ebates is the largest cashback company in the US, maybe world, don't quote me on that one. But largest cashback company in the US. And while I was there, we learned a lot about like the user psychology of just shopping online. Like, you know, I've been building in the commerce space for 7 years now, have met every retailer in North America many times over, and have been, you know, fascinated with commerce for a long time now. And part of, you know, building technology in the space is you have to understand who your customer is and how they shop. And so my customer for the last like 7 years, you know, the consumer that I've been studying is not the Bitcoin consumer. Like that's just, you know, on a personal side of just, that's myself. And you have to sort of abstract of like, it's not me necessarily, it's who your shopper is. And so while I think there's like, you know, the Bitcoin maximalists like might not shop a lot online, they travel a lot. They are, you know, everybody has to eat. They have to get groceries. And so they've shifted from like Amazon to Jet to get groceries. They've shifted from like, you know, Home Depot to Overstock for like, you know, home goods. Like they've like, I don't think people realize like people have made a lot of money using Lolli. It's not an insignificant amount. And Ebates, like if you looked over time, there was users that made thousands and thousands of dollars like every year from their purchases. Like people have gotten better at, it's kind of funny. Like I see all our users come in, I'm on every support ticket, and like our users have gotten better at earning Bitcoin than I have using my own, like using Lolli. It's a funny thing. It's like you build something and you think you're going to be the best at using it, but like people have learned like how to make more Bitcoin like, using our own technology and like stacking different you know, points and everything. It's pretty cool to watch. And we have not given out an insignificant amount of Bitcoin, especially to the, like, I would say that our you know, we're sort of split between 50% Bitcoin maximalist, 50% people brand new to Bitcoin, and like one compounds on the other. Like I think we're the first app that somebody can like send to their mom, their sister, their friends from back home and say, you can earn Bitcoin now. Like this is the easiest thing. You need your email and that's it. Like you start earning and you just shop as you normally would. It's dead simple and people have earned a lot using it.
Yeah, I think one point you raised there, it's a really good one, is that obviously not everyone is monitoring Bitcoin Twitter and listening to Bitcoin podcasts and watching Bitcoin YouTubes. But if you're the type who is, like, let's say you're a more hardcore Bitcoiner, chances are out of your group of friends, if someone comes to you and asks you, that you will be the one that they will come and ask to, oh, how do I do this? How do I get Bitcoin? And people who are quote unquote hardcore Bitcoiners need a way to point their friends down. And, you know, Lolli can be an example of one way to just get your friends who are not so into it just to try and get started with it. And ultimately, it's that concept that I was mentioning with VJ Boyapati before. It's that people get mentally captured, right? Once they're in and they've sort of seen it, then they can start to really see why Bitcoin is better money. Like obviously first by playing that sort of speculation game, then they start to understand why it actually might be a better money.
And that's on us. Like if we, you know, we have all these users that are like, I mean, I'll brag on our team a little bit, but our support team's incredible. Like, you know, that's the world we come from. And one of the things that I think is lacking in the you know, decentralized technology world is like, I mean, customer support is shit. Like I remember like, you know, working with, I won't name names, but like working with a few exchanges and like had an issue and it took them like 6 months to get back to me. You can't have, like, I wouldn't send my mom to that exchange. Like I wouldn't send my sister to that exchange. You need great customer service. So we've invested in customer service from day one. Like we're educating our consumers. Like we have mom from like Michigan, like the other day, she was like, you know, can you explain this thing to me? Can you send me some resources? And so we put together a bunch of resources and we sent it to her. So it's a two-part problem. It's like, someone's excited because they saw Bitcoin on the news, on Fox News, on MSNBC, and then they're like, okay, well, how do I earn it? They find Lolli, or a friend tells them about Lolli, it piques their interest, and then they're like, okay, I want to go earn some. Then you have to educate them. So sort of we think about it as like the consumer funnel. Who is the user? Like similar to any technology. I mean, it's not all too different than really anything. There's a funnel of users that know Bitcoin. We don't need to educate them. They're fine. Some of the stuff that we might educate them might be even too elementary. But then we have this other group of users that we have to educate them. We have to teach them throughout. So we're working on an education series with some Bitcoin maximalists and content writers from like BuzzFeed and Pop Sugar and these fun publications about how to humanize Bitcoin, how to talk about it. We're building games. We're building these like easy on-ramps to just teach people about Bitcoin. And I'm like super excited about the next like 6 months, stuff that we're going to be releasing. Going back to your original question about psychology and sort of bifurcating these like two user groups, and like we have this user that we need to educate on, and we have this user that like wants to earn more. The user that wants to earn more, that is there's the Bitcoin maximalist, you have to give something for them too, because them sharing Bitcoin has led to Bitcoin going up in value and more people knowing about it. They can send it to their friends. They can transact freely country to country. There's tons of value for them. But the psychology behind getting them involved is like you can also earn by like sharing as well. So there's earn by sharing, and then there's earn by shopping. And we've really broken it down into those two parts. So we're serving everybody.
Yeah, that's fast. That's a great way to think about it as well. I think it might be good now just to actually, if you wouldn't mind, just stepping through the product.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah. So we might just do a quick screen share, but I'm obviously cognizant. Well, I have thousands of audio listeners, so we'll just try and explain as we go through as well, just to try and keep it accessible for them as well.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So live demo, it's always fun. All right, so I load jet.com. Lolli comes up. I activate it. It tells me it's been activated, and now I can shop. I can buy groceries. I can buy home decor. I could buy soap. Whatever you're looking for, you can earn Bitcoin. When you shop. So.
Yeah, so essentially it's just like a pop-up that comes in the top right when you go to the website, and you can just activate it that way. So is that just basically a browser extension? I was going to try myself, but obviously I'm in Australia, so I actually can't use the product.
Yeah, so right now, here, I'll share the full screen. Let's see. So I can show you the whole experience. Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So when I activate Lolli, yeah, it's a browser extension. So the way to you go to lolli.com, and then you click through to download the Chrome extension. And then once you've downloaded the Chrome extension, it'll just live in your browser. And when you go to let's just say Walmart.com, place that everybody shops, it comes up. It does it automatically. And yeah, you can earn when you shop at Walmart. And then you can check your balance. You can see all these different retailers. You can see exclusions. And you can see how much you've earned. And then you can see your shopping history. And so it's tracking, it shares very transparent about like what we're tracking, where, showing where you've shopped. You can share it with friends. Yeah, we make it really easy. And then if you want to go sort of deeper into the Lolli universe, you can shop all of our stores here. We have a whole list of all the stores, and this makes it really easy. And there's actually a lot of stores on lolli.com that won't automatically pop up. So depending on the agreement that we have with the retailer, some like the pop-up that comes up, and then other ones want people to come to lolli.com to shop. So I think like, if we go to SeatGeek, you can go buy tickets. we just try to make it really easy for people to earn with just about anything that you're going to do online.
Fantastic. Yeah, it looks like a great user interface as well. It's quite simple.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked really hard on that.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so look, I think it might be good to talk about then merchant adoption. So can you tell us a little bit of insight into how that's gone for you?
Yeah, so I think one of the things that I think my team is absolutely incredible at is, like, we've been building technology in the commerce space for 7 years now. So and I should note, we're building Lolli with the same team as Cosmic. Cosmic was my last company, and when we built Cosmic, I think it was a pretty transformative technology. We were the early inventors of buy buttons, giving people the ability to buy anywhere, and we talked to every retailer in North America to sell this technology, and landed like a lot of retailers, and ultimately got acquired by our biggest customer. And so yeah, I think part of the thing I learned over the last 7 years, and if I hadn't started Cosmic relationships with retailers, Lolli would be a whole different story. We wouldn't have as many merchants. I wouldn't really understand the pain points of the merchants. And the same way that I think about psychology of the consumer, you have to think about the psychology of the merchant as well. Why do they want to play ball? Like, why do they want to be in this Bitcoin space? Like, they're fine in the fiat world. Like, sure, like they pay their fees to the credit card companies, to the acquiring banks, but like it works and like it's secure. So how do you incentivize and change the psychology there, and incentivize them to actually play in our world? And that's I think a fascinating bit of like our success so far. I think we have more major merchant adoption than just about anybody in the space, and we've worked really hard to get it over the last year. So where my conversation started about a year ago was going to the retailers and really finding the pain points with, like, fiat rails, understanding where they were right now, and who they have to pay and how much they pay. And we asked a lot of those same questions with Cosmic. But one of the biggest pain points right now is, like, everybody's competing with Amazon, and they want more customers, they want more shopping to be done, and like they are happy to bring in a new customer. Like, they don't quite care as much as you think they do about what they're paying with, why they're shopping. They really want more shoppers. So we came to them and said, look, there's this whole community of people that want Bitcoin more than cash, more than the US dollar. We are going to go build this technology that distributes Bitcoin to them. And we're going to bring you these amazing, unique users, shoppers, that are going to take their dollars from other places and shop at your site because you're offering them Bitcoin and nobody else is. And so we've been able to land. Let's see, we launched with over 500 merchants. It took us about 6 to 9 months of really hard BD. And then since we launched, we've landed another 250 major merchants since then. And so it's different for everybody, but the common shift in psychology for them is, like, they look at it like points. Like, they're giving points, and if you think of Bitcoin as points that you can use anywhere in the world with very little rules, like the rules are around the code. Like, it exists out there, and I can go. And I explain this to people. Like, I was in Thailand like a few months ago, and I was like, I went to a Bitcoin ATM and I exchanged my Bitcoin, and I was able to use that Bitcoin anywhere in the world. It's points without barriers, and every retailer knows points. So I think it was just like a simple shift in the conversation to get them to understand it and adopt it. The next phase, that we're starting to talk to retailers about is actually accepting Bitcoin. So of all of our retailers, there's about 10 of 750, and these major Fortune 500 merchants that are accepting Bitcoin. And the next phase is about going to them and saying, okay, we've shown you that there's Bitcoin, the community is loud, and we're proud of what we've accomplished and what we've built and this future that we're building. So we need to show them that people want to use Lolli, people want to use Bitcoin, and once people have accumulated all this Bitcoin, now they want something to do with it. And so then over the next 5 years, it'll be shifting a lot of these retailers to saying, look, we're going to give you an easy exchange, like lower fees. And if you can just pay with Bitcoin at all these retailers, and the retailer can incentivize you to pay in Bitcoin, that's where the shift happens. That's where people start to rethink, okay, should I pay with my credit card or should I pay with Bitcoin? If you could earn an extra 1%, that fee that would have gone to an acquiring bank or gone to the credit card company, and you can change that mindset and say, I'm going to earn an extra 1% because I'm paying with Bitcoin. That's where the shift happens, and that's what we're doing. That's our mission over the next 5 to 10 years.
Fantastic. And then how would that change the business model for you in terms of right now it's, say I spend $100, I might get $5 back in Bitcoin, something like that. How would that change then when people start spending directly with Bitcoin?
Yeah, so I mean, we cut out the middleman. I think that's like, I went to this like I try to like really understand who we're up against and who we're working closely with. And I went to this like banking conference the other day. I like to be involved in the Bitcoin community, but to be honest, I think that it's like, you need to understand who you're replacing. Like, and so I went to this banking conference and I was like, one of the only, Bitcoiners there. And I was talking with like, JP Morgan and like, Fifth Third and all this. They don't even see it. They don't get like, I shouldn't say we don't need them, because like I think they're going to adopt Bitcoin eventually. They have to be a secure, holder of value, and they have to adopt it eventually. But the things that we're doing right now are totally outside of anybody. Like, I think Square sees it, and I told them, I was like, if you're not terrified of Square, like, what are you doing? And then they sort of like shrugged it off. And then 2 weeks after that, Jamie Dimon's like, Square is the biggest threat to our business. And I was like, oh, I wonder how that got there. Like, no shit. And so like, yeah, people have to see, like, retailers have to see that it makes sense for them to accept it. It makes sense for them to share it through Lolli. Bankers have to see that they have to adopt it, and they don't need to go launch their own coins to adopt it. Like, sure, like, JP Morgan coin's going to come out. All these people are going to launch their own coins, but that's just going to compound on itself and come back to Bitcoin, as we all do. I think we've all, been at fault for buying an altcoin because it looked all bright and shiny at some point over the last 5 years. Like, I'm guilty of it. Will I shill it? No, I will. I believe that I will share things that have value. And that's how we get people to adopt things. Like, the bankers will adopt Bitcoin. They have to adopt Bitcoin. They're already starting to adopt it. And so this next phase is about showing people that these rails exist. I think Lightning is an unbelievable project that is showing people that you can transact like very, very quickly on chain, send on another layer, interact with Bitcoin. And it's terrifying. Like, if you ever looked at a map of like what's happening when you go pay at Target, at Walmart, and you see like where your money is going and how many people are involved, and then you right next to it you put Bitcoin and the transaction that happens, it is beautiful. It's just simple. It just makes sense, and you don't need all these parties to transact. And so it's our mission to show people, earn first, then start accepting Bitcoin. And that's how I think we change the world.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And I think the cool thing with that is, as you mentioned, like, it may just be the step along the way. So they may start with, okay, here's a discount here's a discount, and you get that back in Bitcoin. And then the next step is accepting Bitcoin directly. So I think it's all kind of in stages there. Okay, the next topic I was really keen to discuss with you, Alex, is just around privacy. So I know obviously lately there have been many data breaches, and people are losing their, companies are just, many of them are not securing their customers' data correctly. How do you think about maintaining customer privacy?
Yeah, so it's one of our highest priorities at Lolli, and it was our one of our highest priorities at Cosmic as well. Part of a lot of it is like who's the core team that's building this, and Matt, my co-founder, CTO, he is he's obsessed with privacy. When I met him, he was building a an app called Frame, which was a private photo sharing app with bank level encryption. Like he cares about privacy. It has to start at the core team, and the core team has to care about privacy. And yeah, that's what our team cares about, and we've shown it over the years. Like with Cosmic, we're early in the days of Lolli, and so but with Cosmic, we showed we were PCI level 1 compliant. We didn't have to be PCI level 1 compliant. One of our claims to fame as a team was we survived the Target data breach. We landed Target as a client, and about a week in, we're sitting around and pull up, 8 a.m., pull up Reddit, 40 million credit cards breached. And the first reaction was like, we had just gotten access to their API. Like, did we do it? And I turned to Matt and I was like, did we do that? And he was like, no, I don't think so. So we ended up like learning a lot from ourselves about security on the payment level. And I think there's a lot that the Bitcoin community can learn from payments, from compliance. Like, we're all setting the standards. Like, everybody is sort of coming together. We're talking with Lightning, we're talking with all these companies, and we all have to come together and do what the payment industry did, where we set this compliance, we set these standards. But yeah, I think we need to be the leader of that, because users' data is important. We're in this sort of interesting territory too, where we have sharing data between two parties is not a bad thing. It's what you share between the two parties that is important, and you have to be transparent in what you share. And so, like with us, we have to communicate to the retailer that this user X bought these groceries from your site and spent this amount of money, and that's a secure transaction of data that, like, you're already giving them your credit card information. You're giving them deeper level of data than you're giving us or anything. We just need the data to be able to show that this person actually bought something using Lolli, and then we reward them with their Bitcoin. But yeah, we keep it super, like, we try to collect as little data as possible. We don't want your data. We want you to be able to earn Bitcoin. That's our mission. So staying true to that is going to be extremely important over the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, and I think the other comment there is also just around de-anonymization. So let's say somebody gets a hold of somebody's spending history, or they try and use that to try and impinge on someone's privacy. Is that an aspect that you are considering as well?
There's not really I don't see a way, unless you could go hack Ebates, and like the data's the data's that's out there is like, if you not a challenge, but like it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, you would see that somebody shopped at jet.com. You wouldn't see what they bought. We don't want to know what you bought. We want to know that you spent $100 and that you're getting 3.5% back, or you're getting you shopped at Priceline and you got $30 when you got a hotel. Like, we don't want to know any information. So like, there's not really that much value in part of like why people hack companies is like, is there like value behind it? Like, we're not holding sensitive information about these people. We know like that somebody like went to like Hotwire and bought something. But yeah, we don't want to store your information. We don't want to store sensitive information. And the information that we do store, we store securely. Bank level encryption. Like, we're not. We learned a lot from the payment industry, and we saw a lot of people that tried to compete with Cosmic fail because they didn't like when we survived the Target breach. It was this validation that like, you can win when you care about privacy. You can win when you care about security. And we built way slower than a lot of our competitors. But when the Target breach happened and everybody freaked out about privacy and everybody freaked out about security and everyone got like, the limelight, put on them, like, we won. Like, that's in the long run. And you look at Apple right now, they are like one of the only companies that has given a shit about privacy, and they've won because of it. And Facebook is failing because of it. And so like, the best product and the best story will always win in the long run. And so you can like, build whatever you want, and you can like, collect whatever data you want. And it's a lot of like short-term thinkers that are like building with that in mind. But when you're building with the consumer in mind, and you're building with the, you know, the notion, sort of the North Star, and like that your users' information is important and privacy is important, like, you know, that's the long game, and that's the game that we're playing.
Yeah, that's great. And I think another angle that Bitcoiners will be interested to discuss will be around custodianship of Bitcoins. And then obviously the aspects around custodial versus sovereign holding of keys, fully validating, etc. Can you offer just some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so that's a question. It's a really good question, and I'm glad you brought that up, because there's a debate in like in Bitcoin Twitter of like, should people even have custodian wallets? What do they serve the community? And I'm on like, you know, I think there's like, it's both. That's what it comes down to a lot of times, is there's not one answer. And if you believe that people are going to adopt Bitcoin without custodian wallets, it's just wrong. Like I mean, it's naive to think that that is how people will adopt Bitcoin. Bitcoin at its core is too difficult to understand, just like being thrown at somebody and having these really, really high expectations of what someone has to do to come on board.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there is value in custodianship. Like, there's value in like bringing somebody on and teaching them. And it's the mission, and it has to be the North Star of these companies that are doing custodian, to shift people, to teach them about keys, to teach them. So it's, and like, it kind of goes back to like, you know, like what I was saying with Apple and privacy. If you build with the intent of keeping somebody like absolutely, like if you teach somebody that custodianship is the only way, then you will lose. Like, the best product will win. And so you have to teach people like, yeah, you should go buy a hardware wallet. You should go diversify. You should go, you know, have cold storage. Like, you should go like learn about all these different types of storage and then make the best decision. But it's our job to educate. But at first, you have to like make it easy. And so we're in the camp of making it dead simple, super easy to earn, hold it, and then if you can sort of visualize, I won't pull up our roadmap, but if you can sort of visualize how the product evolves, think of it like levels. You see somebody and it's like, I'm earning my Bitcoin, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, you're earning. It's a daily touch point. And then over time, you can like maybe earn 1,000 Satoshis if you transfer to your own wallet, if you learn about private keys, if you learn about key store management, if you have your own node. And so every single time we want to incentivize people to earn more, the more that they're learning. And so that's where it kind of goes back to like the user psychology. Start them like my first, you know, Bitcoin wallet, and then let them learn more and let them continue to like earn more and learn about private keys and key management.
Yeah, I think that's a good answer. I think ultimately, while we as Bitcoiners want people to be fully sovereign, fully validating, the reality is people will do what they can do. And in any competitive market, there will be some who, you know, come up with the easiest approach, right? And probably the easiest approach, in fairness, right now is custodial. Now, there are a lot of efforts being put in by Bitcoiners to try and make it easy for people to go full node self-sovereign. But it's probably a recognition that right now it's the easiest path is custodial. But if there is at least a path that Bitcoin newbie is being taken on to try and learn more about Bitcoin, hopefully once they sort of become more mentally captured, then they do at that point try and learn to be more self-sovereign.
Yeah, and like, I mean, my first few years I wasn't self-sovereign. Like I use custodial, and I'm like, you know, I've been building technology since I was 12. Like I'm, you know, on the spectrum, like in the top, like, you know, probably 1% of people who like should understand how to do this and how like this all works. And it took me a long time. And so you can't, like, you could assume that this next generation of kids are just going to like understand what Bitcoin is because they're like, they grow up seeing it on Cash App. They grow up seeing it on Lolli. Like it's going to be part of their curriculum. They're going to see it online. They're going to see your videos, your podcasts. Like there's so many people that are talking about Bitcoin right now that they're going to just know. It's like, it's kind of like what we grew up with and what we knew about having a social security number, or having any sort of like understanding how banking works, understanding how like balancing a checkbook, like junior achievement in the US. Like there's going to be classes that like, teach people. And if they don't learn, then they're going to lose their money. Like it's this tax on not learning and not understanding how the world works. And that's true with all things. Like if you really boil down like how humans evolve, like the smartest humans evolve, and like you end up like earning more money. You end up passing that money down. You end up like controlling your time more. Like with every growing technology, especially in this world of information where more people than ever have access to information, it's a free for all. If you're not learning, if you're not like understanding how the world works, like you're going to get left behind.
Yeah, there's a lot there. There's a lot that people have to learn, and you're right. Many people do come in a non-self-sovereign way and then learn to then become more self-sovereign. So I think it's not necessarily reasonable to expect that everyone who comes in is fully doing it the quote unquote the right way. But yeah, I think there are some good comments. I think also it might be good to just talk a little bit about more like roadmap, what you have coming down the line for Lolli. I think that might be an interesting discussion.
Yeah, so largely, I mean, our roadmap is shaped by our users. We have a really clear idea of the high level of where Lolli goes, and I think it's important to think about both of our customers and as we evolve. Like, yes, we want to integrate Lightning, and we've played around with it a lot on just on like behind the scenes. I love what Elizabeth and the team are building over there. I think it's incredible, and it's going to change the world. But a lot of what we're focused on is what are our users demanding, and so right now, like, we're announcing some really exciting partnerships. There's been partnerships that we've been working on for a year now. And so there's like over the next 6 months, we're announcing some really, really exciting partnerships. That's been, I think that's going to be really fun and like give people more places to shop. One of the experiences, we're really excited about is providing a mobile experience, giving people the ability to have, again, more touch points, more places to earn, and taking not just online shopping, online travel, lots of touch points there, and providing more touch points, so like a daily activity, going and earning when you go to the coffee shop, going and earning, paying your friends, like making it a more daily activity and having more touch points is a lot of what the product is focused on. And then, we already have the ability, like you can bring your own address, you can transfer money in and out. And so giving people like more flexibility and teaching people when there's an off ramp, and there's an easy off ramp into either back to US dollar if somebody wants to transfer to US dollar, or into their own address, and teaching them about that. We're working with some really awesome, smart people in the Bitcoin community, as I said, about teaching people and how to humanize it. So releasing like a content series, releasing a blog, and pretty excited about a lot of that.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I think there's a really bright future ahead here with Lightning, partnerships, the content series, as you mentioned. The future is going to be a lot more mobile as well. People will use mobile for a lot of shopping. I've just got a couple last few questions, I think, just more for the Bitcoiners, just to understand around how they can withdraw. So when they earn Bitcoin into Lolli, how does it work around the withdrawals?
Yeah, so you go to lolli.com /account, and you can withdraw at, like, I think we have a $15 US dollar threshold. So once you've earned your Bitcoin, and I think that typically takes like a few purchases. Once you've earned Bitcoin, you can transfer it to your own wallet. We bring your own address policy, and then you can also transfer to your US dollar bank account if you want. All we need is your email and first name, last name. So there's not a tricky off ramp. And I think that's exciting. I think for the hardcore Bitcoin community that doesn't want to give their social security number out. Like, I don't want your social security number. I just want an easy off ramp, for those users. But then, to a new crypto user, we have to give them a really easy way, really easy off ramp as well, to like teach them about keys and key management. So you can put in your address. We'll send you your Bitcoin, and keep it really easy on both sides.
Fantastic. Yeah, I think that's it's an interesting thing that many Bitcoiners will want to know. But then, obviously, as more and more people learn, they'll get into that as well. Also, is your offering in the US only, or?
Yeah, US only, and we're announcing another country soon. And so stay tuned for that. But I think one of my biggest learnings from my previous company is focus. I want to do everything today. Sure, like if I could just snap my fingers and do it, but that's not how great products get built, and that's not how we change the world. If something breaks, if we were to have a security vulnerability, if we were to like not be able to serve our customers, it's done. Like, there's no, I don't want to. We're going to build it right, and we're going to focus on the US, and then we're going to expand. So we've had a lot of demand in international, and the nice part is like the retailers are supportive of the international. That was part of the original sales process. Is like, they want to serve an international consumer. The whole world's connected through information. So shouldn't the whole world be connected through commerce? I should be able to go buy, something from Australia. I should be able to buy from my favorite brands in Japan, and everybody should be able to transact freely. That's where it gets really exciting. And you kind of mentioned it earlier. Is like the merchant adoption. How does that merchant adoption get even more pervasive? Like, it's not just cross-border fees. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but it's not just the fee, the credit card fees. It's the chargebacks. Bitcoin, like a feature, when I go teach people, all our 750 merchants about Bitcoin, and I tell them it's immutable. Like, when you're buying something, there's no fraud. Like, if you're buying something, you went and bought it, like, that Bitcoin's gone. If you're buying something, you're gonna get that item, and like the retailers perk up and they're like, oh, that solves a lot of our issues. And retailers have like 10 to 20% fees, like chargeback fees, that they experience when somebody buys internationally. So when we're coming in, we're not just solving the problem of the 1%, the 2% that the acquiring banks and the credit card companies take. We're solving that like 10% fee. That gets really exciting when we go international. So we're totally incentivized to go international. We're really excited about it. It's on our roadmap. And we're building as fast as we can. So the more users that we have, the more people that are using Bitcoin, the faster we're going to be able to grow, and the more we're going to be able to expand. So I share it with your friends. Like, I'll shamelessly plug Lolli. It's
definitely tell the listeners, because we're pretty much getting to time anyway. So let's tell the listeners where they can go to follow Lolli and to follow you.
So it's Try Lolli is our handle. Lolli.com, LOLLI.com. Probably put a link below. And you go on, download it, share it with your friends, family, and look forward to sharing Bitcoin with the world.
Fantastic. Yeah, look, so I think that's great. I think the stuff you guys are doing is excellent. And I think, Bitcoiners, go check it out and tell your friends. And so, look, as we close out the episode today, if you've enjoyed the discussion and you want to help me out, make sure to don't forget to give it a thumbs up and a like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we've got more episodes coming. But that's pretty much it for this episode. So thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next time. Bye.